This project builds on our RStudio EKS project. I'll include a link at the top to that project. Our goal here is to build a scalable cluster of RStudio servers running on ECS, not Kubernetes. Elastic Container Service is AWS's fully managed container platform that predates EKS by about 4 years. The primary reason to use ECS is its simplicity and deep AWS integration, no control plane to manage, seamless IAM roles, and native support for core services. We'll begin by provisioning the mini Active Directory instance, which provides central authentication for our users. As a part of the AD setup, several sample users are created. Their credentials are stored securely in AWS Secrets Manager. We will use those secrets in the demo. Next, we'll deploy an Amazon EFS file system. This gives us persistent home directories for each user and a shared R library where packages can be installed for all users. We'll also provision an EFS gateway server and a Windows AD server to manage the domain. During the demo, we'll log into the AD admin docs to add a new user and show how EFS storage appears as a Z drive from the EFS gateway server. Next, we'll create an ECR repository and use Docker to build a custom RStudio server image. This image includes compilers and system tools required for building and installing R package directly into the shared storage. Only members of the RStudio admins group is allowed to install packages for all users. For the runtime, we'll deploy an Amazon ECS cluster using the EC2 launch type. The associated autoscaling group supports up to 4 nodes, automatically adding instances when average CPU utilization exceeds 60%. Next, we'll deploy our ECS service, which defines how tasks are scheduled across the cluster. You can think of an ECS service as being roughly equivalent to a deployment in Kubernetes. The ECS task definition defines the RStudio container image, resource limits, and environment settings for each running instance. You can think of each task as being roughly equivalent to a pod in Kubernetes. We'll also associate an application load balancer to our ECS service. Once all components are deployed, users can hit the load balancer to get a simple web login interface. From here, they can sign in using their AD credentials stored in Secrets Manager and start working in RStudio immediately after the build. Now let's cover the prerequisites for this project. We have a video out there, I'll put a link at the top, that is AWS and Terraform Easy Setup. It provides a very simple Terraform project and walks you through how you need to create the IAM user in the AWS console and extract out the secret and access key necessary for the build. So what you'll need for this project is that AWS account with that secret and access key. We'll end up setting that as environment variables. You need to have the AWS CLI, you need to have Terraform, and then you need Docker installed for the Docker builds of the RStudio container. To build this project, we're going to start with this git clone command. So you want to copy this and put that into your development environment. And it's going to download the code and go into the project directory. And so the first thing you want to do on all our projects is run check env. And what this is going to do is go through and actually verify that all the prerequisites that we put in this prerequisite sections are set. You know, the AWS commands there, Terraform's there, Docker, everything you need to do a build, and it actually logs in to AWS and makes sure that your secret and access key work. So at this point, what you want to do is you want to apply. Now the apply takes about 15 minutes to build. As always, if you have any comments on this project, please leave a comment below. I found these RStudio projects, I'm getting a lot of dislikes, and that's cool. But maybe if you could put a comment about why you dislike it, it would, be helpful for me to improve the channel. The build has completed, so let's go into the console and take a look at what got built. We'll start by looking at the EC2 instances that are deployed as part of the project. So there are 5 instances that get deployed. The first one is the Windows AD admin box. We will log into that box during the demo via RDP. To manage users, we'll add a user and show you how to do that. Then we have the 2 nodes associated with the ECS cluster. That's going to be in an autoscaling group that we'll look at. We also have the mini AD controller. This is our identity provider for our solutions. When we deploy the mini AD, we're going to provision some users. Then we have the EFS Samba gateway. This attaches to our EFS file system and allows it so to be mounted on the Windows side. You'll see that in the demo with the Z drive. So then we also have the autoscaling group. This is the autoscaling group associated with the ECS cluster. It flexes between 2 and 4. We're going to have a capacity provider on the ECS cluster, which allows us to scale up after 60% CPU utilization. For the users created in AD, there's 4 sample users. We generate random credentials and then stick those credentials inside Secrets Manager. In the demo, what we'll do is you'll retrieve these values, which are generated uniquely for every build and for logging into the application and also the Windows AD box. An EFS instance also gets provisioned. The EFS instance is used for the user's home directories and also the shared R library so that admins can install packages for all users using the shared library location. For our Docker container, we create an RStudio ECR instance. In that repository, you're going to have the one image that we built in Docker. This is the RStudio image, along with all the tools and compilers necessary for installing external packages. Then we have the ECS cluster. You can see 2 are running, and it's the capacity of auto-scaling. So we'll click on that. And we've got a service that we'll look at. We've got the 2 tasks that are running. These are essentially pods. We have the infrastructure, where we are saying, first off, we're using EC2, so we have those 2 nodes that are connected to the cluster. Then we have the capacity provider. The capacity provider is what scales up and down based on the load. Next, we'll look at the service. The service is sort of like the deployment in Kubernetes land. And you can see that it's got 2 tasks associated with it. You can think of tasks as like pods. It aggregates all the logs together, which can be a little bit confusing. When we see the tasks, you'll be able to subset just by the tasks. And then it's got deployment, which is what it uses to actually deploy your service. And it's got events in here to show you what has gone on. Next, let's look at the individual tasks or pods in Kubernetes language. You can see that it's much easier to associate tasks and roles here. There's no Kubernetes account and then attaching to that. It's very direct. It's got the log configuration. It's going to a log group, etc. RStudio. It allows you to see that right in here. So if I go into logs, it'll show you, it'll pull it directly from that group for this particular container instances. It also has the volumes here, which is connecting to the EFS shared storage. It's quite like a persistent volume claim where it's saying, okay, EFS home goes /home, and then EFS root goes /here. So that's how we connect our storage to our container runtime. Finally, if you go back to the cluster, you'll see the RStudio service has a application load balancer associated with it. It's running on port 80. The containers are running on port 8787. We'll click on that. It's sort of a run-of-the-mill internet-facing load balancer. Again, it's running on port 80. So if you go to the target group, the target group is of type IP. You can see you've got the 2 containers running on 8787. It glues it up by IP address. It's got health checks that make sure that everything is running properly. And then one other thing is we do have stickiness. The RStudio server application is not stateless. It's stateful. If you hit the wrong server from login to execution, it'll run issues. So we turn on stickiness. To test the cluster, first thing I'm going to do is go back to our validation output, and we've got the ALB endpoint right here. This is the application load balancer. So I'm going to copy this and bring it up in my browser session. And does it say log in? So this is where you put your Active Directory credentials. We're going to log in as R. Patel. And I'm going to go in and get his credentials. Copy that. So we've logged in as Raj Patel. And note we have a terminal session in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do ID. And the thing that I keep in mind is Raj Patel is a member of RStudio admins. So that means this user can actually install packages. So if you go to your files pane, you've got EFS, that's the file system. What I'm going to do is show a couple of examples. So I'm going to go to the cluster. This is the project that's pulled onto the server when we build it. And so let's go to our samples and let's look at the cowboy hat. Everybody loves the cowboy hat. I'm going to run that. And you see you've got the cowboy hat here. There's also files. We've got a walk simulation. I'm going to run that. Every time you run it, you get a different values. Then what else do we have in here? We've got Carlo. I'll run that. Click on that. Click on source. And it's going to run. So those are just sort of a basic R programs that you can run. Now, the one thing that I wanted to cover here was if I go back to my file and I go to packages.r, there's various ways you can install packages. There's system libraries and there are user libraries. The way I've configured this RStudio is all users can install stuff into their user libraries. But if they happen to be in that group that we talked about, the RStudio admins, they can also install packages for everybody else. And the reason that's important is because we're going to run through this package here, and it takes quite a bit of time to install. So I'm going to run this guy right here, and that's going to run ESL and install it in EFS RLibs. So it's going to compile a bunch of stuff, and it's done compiling. And so if I go back to the file system here, and I go up, and I go to RLibs, you see it installed into GSL. And so this is installed for all users. I'm an admin, and so anybody else that logs in from this point forward can actually use the GSL package without having to compile it again. Now, if I wasn't a member of RStudio admins, and what we're going to do is create a new user that is not, you'll see what happens there. You can still do the thing, but you'll have to run it in your own library. The next step in the demo is we are going to add a new user and then test that new user and make sure it works. So what we need to do is we're going to use the Windows AD box. I'm going to go back. I have the remote desktop connection there. I'm back in here, and I'm going to put in the Windows instance fully qualified domain, put that into here, and I want to log in as RStudio Patel. So I'll do, I need to use a different account, RStudio Patel. You need to go back to Secrets Manager, pull that out, put it in there. So the session's going to come up, and what we want to do is we want to bring up the administrative tools and go to Active Directories, Users, and Groups. Once Active Directory Users and Groups come up, so the first thing you want to do is you want to select View and say Advanced Features. And the reason we're going to do that is because we need to set UID number, UID, and GID number for the user to present itself properly on the Linux side. So we've done that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand out the tree here. I'm going to go to Users, and I'm going to say New User. And I'm going to say Mike Cloud and a user ID of mcloud. Hit next. Put whatever password you want in there. So we've done the first step. We've created the user, and it's in here. So the next thing we need to do is we need to calculate what the next UID number is, and we do have a special script in there. So if you bring up the Windows Explorer, and you go to the network drive, and so go to the Z drive, which is the EFS mounted through a Samba gateway, and click on RStudio Cluster, and click on utils, and let's run get next UID. Run that, and it's going to go look it up and say, hey, your next UID number is 10,005. So now let's keep that in mind, and let's go back to the user, and let us bring up the property sheet on it. And the first thing I'm going to do is go to the attribute editor, and there's 3 attributes you need to set. GID number, 10,001 is RStudio users, so I'm going to set that. Then I'm going to go to the bottom and find UID number. There's UID. I'm going to put mcloud as the UID. Click on add. Okay. And then UID number is 10,005. Let's click OK. Apply. Hit OK. And so the one other thing we need to do, we need to go to a member of, and we need to add this user to our studio.users. And then we need to set, I'm just going to put it in the US group. Now, note, we're not going to put them RStudio admins group. So it should not allow me to install GSL as this user. Say here, let's go back to that script and say get next UID. And it now has 10,006 because we've set 10,005. At this point, we're ready to test the new user. Okay, so go back to the RStudio login dialog and put in mcloud and put the password that you set. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to terminal and I'm going to say ID. And you should see those UID attributes that we put in there, UID number, GID number, and we're not a member of RStudio users. So let's go back to EFS here, and let's go to the cluster, and we've got the same thing. We got the R sample, so I'm gonna click on that. We'll just do a volcano plot just for grins. Hit source, and you've got the volcano plot. But what we really want to do is we want to go to the packages.r, and I'm going to try to install it in the actual common location, EFS RLab. So I'm going to run that, and it's going to go, hey, you don't have permissions, is not writable. I want to use your personal library. So we'll do that. We'll go back to here and comment that out, and this will install it into your personal library. Compile finished. And so what if you go back to your files, and let's go up, and let's go to your R. This is in your home directory. And if I click on that, 4.3, it put GSL in the your actual home directory. So I could use it, but it's just for me. Whereas when I installed with Raj Patel's identity, I could install it for everybody, and everybody could skip the compiles. So that's pretty much it for adding a new user. You do it on the Windows AD admin box. And at this point, the only thing left to do is to be good stewards of your cloud account and to destroy your project. So I'm going to go back to my thing. I'm going to clear, and I'm going to do destroy. And the destroy takes about 15 minutes.